The miracles of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The tree follows the comment of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Imam Muslim reported on the authority of Abbad ibn Samit, on the authority of Jabir, who said, we set out on an expedition along with Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, until we got down at a spacious valley, and Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, went to relieve himself. I followed him with a bucket full of water, and Allah's Messenger looked about, and he found nothing to sit behind for privacy but two trees at the end of the valley. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, went to one of them and took hold of one of its twigs and said, follow me, be under my control by the permission of Allah. And so it followed him like the camel who has its nose string and in the hand of its rider. And then he came to the second tree and took hold of one of its twigs and said, follow me by the permission of Allah. And so it followed him just as the first one did. When he came in the middle of the two trees, he joined together the two twigs and said, join with the permission of Allah. And so they joined together. Jabir said, I was afraid lest Allah's Messenger should be aware of my nearness and go still farther. I sat down and began to talk to myself, and suddenly I found Allah's Messenger before me, and the two trees were separated, and each one of them was standing at his trunk. I saw Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, standing for a short time, nodding his head toward right and left, pointing to the trees to go one to the right and one to the left. Then the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, came to me and said, Jabir, did you see the place where I was standing? I said, Allah's Messenger, yes. He then said, then you should go to those two trees and cut a twig from each of them and go to that place with them where I was standing and stand there and place a twig on the right and a twig on the left. Jabir said, I set out and took hold of a stone and broke it and sharpened it, and then I came to those trees and cut a twig from each one of them. I then dragged them until I stood at the place where Allah's Messenger had been standing and placed a twig on the right and a twig on the left. Then I came to him and said, Allah's Messenger, I have done that, but kindly explain to me the reason for it. Thereupon he said, I passed by two graves, the occupants of which had been undergoing torment. I like to make intercession for them so that they might be relieved of this torment as long as these twigs remain fresh. Jabir said, we went back to the army camp, and Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, said, Jabir, call people to perform wudu, ablution. I said, Allah's Messenger, there is not even a drop of water in the army camp. There was a person who used to call the water for Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, in an old water skin which was hanging by the twig. He asked me to go to such and such Ansari, the separators from the inhabitants of Medina, and asked him to see if there was any water in that skin. I went to him and cast a glance in it, but did not find anything but a drop in the mouth of that water skin. And if I were to draw that, the water skin's dried part would soak it up. I came to Allah's Messenger and said, I have not found anything in it, but a drop of water in the mouth of the water skin. And now, if I were to draw that, it would be absorbed. He then said, go and bring that to me. I brought it to him. He took hold of it and began to utter something which I could not understand, and then pressed it with his hand and give that to me and say Jabir announced for that the top to be brought. So I announced that the top of the army be brought. It was brought accordingly, and I placed it before him, the Holy Prophet. Thereupon Allah's Messenger placed his hands in the top like this, with his fingers stretched out, and then he placed his fingers at the bottom of the top and said, Jabir, take it, that water skin, and pour of Allah, or pour water over me, and say Bismillah, in the name of Allah. I poured water and I said Bismillah in the name of Allah, and found water spouting out between the fingers of Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him. Then that top gushed forth until it was filled up, and the Messenger, peace be upon him, said, Jabir, make an announcement to the effect, he who needs water should take that. Jabir said, the people came and got water until they were all satisfied. I said, is there anyone left who wants any water? And Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, then lifted up his hand from that top, and it was still full. Then the people made a complaint to Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, about hunger, and he said, may Allah provide you with food. We came back to the ocean, and the ocean was tossing, um, and it threw out a big whale, and we lit a fire and cooked it and took it until we had eaten to our heart's content. Jabir said, I and such persons entered its socket, and nobody could see us until we had come out. And we took hold of one of its ribs and twisted it into a sort of arch. Then we called the tallest of the persons of the army and the most huge of the camels of the army, and it had a big saddle over it, and it could easily pass through it without the rider having need to bend down.